Okay, so here we go. So we are we've already opened up our Maya here, and we're gonna just do a new scene. I'm not gonna bother setting the project because it's already set to what we were doing before. And the first thing I want to show you today is a method of modeling that is very useful. Now, um, this is where you can use reference images to a great extent. Um, so we're gonna do a sword today here, and all I did was I hit spacebar to pull up my four views. You can also click it over here if you want. And you go to View, Image Plane, Import Image, and just select your image. And voila, oops, didn't want to deselect it just yet. Now, normally when you pull it in, it's selected, and once you deselect it, you can't select it again unless you go through the View, Image Plane Attributes, and then click it, or if you go to the channel box editor. Um, so if you deselect it, you could either hit Z, or if you want to move it around later, um, that's how you get to it. So the first thing we want to do is we just want to slide this out of our workspace. So this is behind the grid in this view, and we're going to be working mostly in this view at the very beginning to get the silhouette for right. Um, and you don't really normally have to do this, but if you want to align the model up to a certain point, like let's say I want the hilt to be right at 0, I could do that. And so when I make the model, the hilt will be the center of my model. Obviously, you can just move it around later if you wanted to, but it's whatever. I'm not going to bother with that right now. So um, so we have our plane, we have our reference image, and this is really easy for us because we can just go to full view in this view and create a cube. Now the really handy thing is that we can mirror this model. Since it's a symmetrical sword, obviously, there's no point in making the sword different on either side because of the shape of it. Um, so what you want to do first in this view is you just kind of get the general shape of the sword first. And then you can use Insert Edge Loop to add geometry to allow you to get that silhouette. And that's the biggest thing you want to get is you always want to make that silhouette first. And when making the silhouette, you have to factor into account um, various things. You want to make sure you get the shape of everything just about right. Now, obviously, if we go to perspective view and look at it, it's kind of, yeah, not really looking what we want. So after you make this silhouette, you're gonna have to go in here and fix it up to make it look prettier on perspective view. But first, let's just do this. And let me put on X-ray so I can see through it. Shading is like that's your little buddy there to help you out. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add in a whole bunch of geometry. Now, normally you don't want to add in a whole bunch like what I'm doing here. Um, oops. Um, uh, Normally you just want to get just the bare minimum and work with that. But um, because of how simple this is, we're just going to go ahead and throw in as much detail as we want right away. Obviously, when you're starting off, you might want to be a little bit more cautious and gentle with what you're doing, but um, I'm just going for speed here so you can see what I'm doing and get the idea down as fast as possible. So let's go ahead and start pulling these things into position that we want. And another handy thing about this is that you can also just technically model a quarter of this entire model, and then just mirror it and mirror it again in a different axis to create the whole entire thing. Now, it's important not to get hung up on on making it directly perfect to the silhouette that you're working with, your reference image, because obviously you're not going to get it absolutely perfect with the reference image. That's just not going to happen. But it is good to use it as a very loose definition of what you want, and then just refine afterwards. So here we go. We're starting to get the shape that we want here. So we got pretty much the whole handle done, just like that. I mean, that's it. I mean, it's really simple. Um, you just pull stuff in to what you want it to look like, and now it's going to be a little bit tricky down there, but we'll solve that issue in perspective in a minute. So we pretty much have it all set up in this view. Let's go ahead and just pull this in real quick because it looks bad. And again, I mean, Maya is an art program, so uh, go for what you think looks best. Don't go for precision. Don't go for style or whatever. Um, Details like the grip, you can just texture in, especially with something like this. Um, we may want to model this in, and in fact, I may actually do that just to show you how it's done, to show you how to do high poly stuff. But now, what I normally do is I normally go into the front view here and pull things into position from there. But with this specific model, that would look really difficult to do because of the complexity of all of the verts lined up in the exact same space. So let's uh, let's just throw in. Let's do insert edge loop tool. We'll do it right down the middle. And again, I'm gonna um, align it to the middle grid right there. And I'm gonna show you a technique that will work forever for any Maya program, any Maya version that you're using. This will help. And boom, deleted. Now, when we want to, we can just mirror this when it's all done, and it'll look perfect. So, yeah, that's really nice and handy. Let's merge these verts over here, and these are the verts um, that I pulled into position over here at the very end of the square of the cube. So that's where those are from, just so you know. And then I'm gonna pull this in there, merge that. So now we have a pointy sword. Yay, pointy sword, pointy sword. Um, so let's head back here. We're just gonna work from the base of the hilt all the way up. Um, Now we don't really need to do much to this because of the shape of it, but we could, if we wanted to, we could maybe pull these in just a little bit, give it more of a, just a soft roundness to it. And then, obviously, here is where it starts getting really round, so we're going to use the scale tool to pull them in just a little bit to each other. And then this is where it's really round, so this is where you need to start worrying about how much roundness you're expressing. So this is where I'll pull this out just a little bit to give it a little bit more depth. And yeah, actually, let's pull these in. If you want to get rid of that, the the manipulator here, um, just hit Q and it'll change it back to the selector tool. So that's nice and handy to know. It's actually looking a little sloppy. Let me try to clean that up. We may need to add more polys here, but right now I'm just trying to get the general shape in this view. Um, Obviously, the handle has a little bit of leeway with what we can do with it because of the shape of it. It's just a generic sword handle, anyways, so it's not like we're doing anything drastically special or anything. But getting that roundness is always going to be a challenge. Um, doing roundness in polys is difficult to say the least. Right now, we have it pretty low poly. I mean, this is 89 tries. If we mirrored it, that's like 170 something. So, this is pretty lightweight. We have a lot of leeway with this. We could texture this and run with it as it is right now. After pulling everything into the position that we want. Now you see in here on the model or on the illustration, the this hilt actually sticks out of the round part, um, and I didn't really take that into account when I first did it in the view. So what we can do though is throw in an edge loop, shrink it down, and then pop it into alignment with these verts. So now we have that shape. We can this is like a reverse extruding, right? Um, and that's just being tricky. Tricky. Let's pull this stuff in. And we're gonna have to pull this up. And obviously it just comes down to a lot of adjustments and making sure things look good and line up the way that you want them to. Yeah, let's make sure that's lined up. And pull it up a little bit. And then let's look in this view to see how it looks. Oh hey, I did that backwards, didn't I? Oops. Well, we can just undo all that. This is why it's good to look at different views at different times. So, but this is easy to fix. So right now we can just do this, get that roundness, and then we just redo it here, where I should have been paying attention. Snap this up to this one. Snap this one down. And pull that in. And voila. Much better. Now, I don't want these to look explicitly flat like this. I want them to have a little bit of a turn to it, and that'll also help us right here because you can see where the alignment of the edges and the faces don't quite match up, where this vert is pushing past this boundary of this edge, which is actually not connected to. So we can just pull this down just a little bit. And we can just do that for this entire thing until we get up to the hilt. Just make it more and more gradual for each one until it's flat right around here. And it's so subtle that you won't really notice it, but it'll look really good once you texture it. And you won't have to do too much with it. I mean, it all comes down to how you want it to look in the end. Now, you'll see here, now we need more definition here along